Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The challenges section is just chaos. Every single day. It's just chaos. There are 7 games per round. There were another 6 decisive games yesterday. 6 out of 7 games were decisive for 2 days in a row. Like, I only want to show decisive games, of course, but there were 6 of them. So we're going to flash through all 7. I've got the draw in front of you, which was Daniel Yufa versus Bibisara. And we're going to start with the draw so that every game from now on is decisive. It was like a King's Indian attack per se. You know, we traded queens early. There was some changes here, some mild tension, some mild tactics. The bishop was just hanging for forever, but you can't really take it. You can't take it. So, for example, here, I'm attacking the rook. Here. Now, you might say, wait, okay. I understand why I can't take the bishop, but can I take the rook? Well, you can. Rook takes d1, and then if you take the bishop, you lose because rook d8, and I pick the bishop back up. That's your punishment for not developing. So black has to continue to develop. We kick out the knight, and finally we bring the bishop back. And then we allow the bishop to be taken. It didn't get taken. And white just continues to mow down and create chances and create stuff. But nothing really comes. Eventually we do trade off all the major pieces. We're left with only minor pieces. Everything gets liquidated on the queen side. And once everything was on the same side, unless someone really blundered now in time pressure, nothing was going to happen. And we did get a blunder. Knight c4 allowed this capture. And this should be a winning endgame for white. Particularly when you take this pawn. But it's so difficult. And, you know, it's really, really challenging to win this, because at the end of the day, all black needs to do is trade off one set of pawns. And king takes was bad because now there's the fork, and now the king will get back, blockade the one pawn, check, check, and we repeat moves or takes, and this is a draw because I get into the corner. So the only draw of the day. Now we move on to a young lady. And Aiden, Lumioi started off like a house on fire. 15 years old, won her first 2 games. Aiden is one of the leaders, or was. There were a lot of leaders, so, you know, you have to forgive me. D4, Knight of 6, and this game was a Nimso Indian. Now, Nimso Indian is the pinnacle test of the white opening repertoire, but in this instance, we don't even trade the dark squared bishop, so the imbalance is not as much. They do pump out a bunch of opening theory. Queen h5. Black is very much in the attack. I like this a lot. The Queen's Indian and the Nimso Indian, I think, gives black a lot of edge. It really, really does. But it's difficult. So we trade here, we get the bishop out, we trade again, and this probably should be heading for a draw. We trade the queens, we bring out the bishop. Should be fine. But black continues to press and wins a pawn. Kind of. We have to give it back in just a second. But now white starts getting in the game. Despite the fact they've got a terrible pawn structure, both sides, because of these split pawns, F and H, and these are the same. It's same colored bishops, and the knights just make the game interesting. In fact, white is slightly better. It's difficult to say why. It's probably got to do with this being a light squared bishop, targeting these 3 pawns. And they become very difficult to defend, and black's knight's just not active and can get stuck. But f5 is played, and all the advantage that you may have had disappears. We now put a couple of pawns on dark squares, advance a pawn, and really this is going to be decided by an endgame blunder, which is really, really sad to see, because you never want to see a game decided like this, with just one blunder. We trade off all the stuff. Now as black, you've got to be so careful, and you've allowed 2 clean pass pawns, and you're hoping your pawns can come through, but the king's right there. That's the thing, and you allow those pawns to get really, really far, and knight d7's the wrong way. The only winning move here is bishop c. You've got, what, a couple holding moves. So bishop c6 with a piece. Otherwise, king g5 or king g7. These are the 3 moves that hold. You play the wrong one. You bring the knight back, but now the bishop comes in. You get the knight all the way into passivity, trade off, and this is just lost. Because you can come forward, the second pawn comes, check, and here, and resigns, because now you go here, you can't take, and Lumioi has to resign. Next game, American Prodigy, Andy Woodward versus local player Max Varmadan. I say local player like it's condescending. He's a grandmaster. He's one of the best players in the world. But he is Dutch, and they are playing in the Netherlands. This was a more standard Queen's Gambit declined with a6. Now, a6 normally looks like a bad move, but it is a line. In fact, there's a very famous course made by Gotham Chess. You could probably find it if you're a Chessley subscriber. On a6, he's made a course on this, and it's interesting line. Bishop attacks the queen, and we trade off the dark squared bishops, and now knight bd2. Now, that trade for black is probably not good, because you've got a bunch of pawns on light squares. You would love a dark squared bishop. Doesn't quite happen. And white gets almost like a Catalan-style position, where they've got the fianchettoed bishop. They're, going to give check and not win this back. You could take this, but, short castles, knight b3, it's not the greatest position, despite you having this, because they can play c6, and now you maybe don't get anything. You play short castles. It's a different way the game could go. Anyway, queen b5. Queen a3. Now bishop to b5. Now b3. Interesting idea. Here, short castles. Queen trade offered. We take now like this. And now we avoid the queen trade. We plonk our knight in the center. Takes. Queen moves up. You might say, wait, hang on. Can't you take this? You can. You can go for this. But then there's rook takes c7, and you're going to lose this. And this is a draw. So you want to keep pieces on the board and keep as much dynamic play as you can. So queen b6, queen c3, now rook a2, trying to activate. Max Varmadon. Knight to, bishop f3, and now c6. Knight drops back to d3, rook e8, knight out to c5, targets the bishop. Now we offer a bishop trade. Rook fe1, takes, pawn takes, offering a rook trade. Queen comes into the center, h6, h4, queen c7. Is white maybe ruining things for themselves a little bit? Queen gets hit, goes all the way to a1. You might say, yeah, a1's a bit weird. Knight out, offering a trade. No trade. Now knight d2. Are we going to repeat? No. b4. We push the pawn. Now the position's not the same. White begins to push pawns on the queen side. Are they weakening the king? We get a trade. Queen trade. The whole game, neither player wanted to trade queens. And this trade, I think, is worse for white. This is a 2-on-1. Black has winning chances. White's got a hold, so they pick up one pawn. They lose one on the king side, but they should be fine. As long as they don't blunder mate. Black may just have blundered mate. Knight c8's the wrong way. The right way to go here is to play b5, f3, or rook b8 check. Those are the three winning moves. Knight b8's the wrong way. Now check. Now king f4. Now you come here. Now king g5. And white just walks into the position. Picks up a pawn. Comes back. Check here. And white's just winning. They've got two king pass pawns. And check. And now they're going to defend the king. The knight is one of the best defenders of the king. And check. Knight to g4. Resigns. If you go to h5, you get mated. And you have to... The only way to survive here is to go to g7 or to sack the rook. The thing is, you go here. Now there's check. And then you have to go to the back rank. And now h5. And you cannot stop both pawns. So Max Varmadon picks up the win. Now we've got a battle of international masters. Argentinian prodigy versus Dutch international master Eliane Robos, who had a fantastic showing at the Women's World Cup. World Blitz. I mixed everything up. World Blitz. She had, it was a bit heartbreaking. She led for quite a while and then didn't win. This is an interesting position. I actually like this. If you play c5. With the light squared bishop like this, I really like these positions for black. I think white's set up fine. Double fianchettos is always an interesting setup. It means how you engage in the center is always going to be interesting. And what we see is that there's a trade of knights. The rooks are doubled on the c-file. We trade off that dark squared fianchetto. We plonk our knight onto f4. And probably white's just got a very good position when the queens come off. Simply because they're putting pressure on this, you have to defend this. It means their bishop's doing much more. The knight is here, this knight's a target, and the rooks are doubled on the c-file. So just a slightly better position for Faustino Oro. He looks to trade off one set of rooks. He does so, check here, and he takes the bishop. Check here, and takes the knight. And he's going to play this endgame with 2 pieces versus the rook, and check, and he wins. King f8, the blunder. And he just wins like that, in a flash. Next game, Marc'Andria Morizzi versus Vladimir Ivincic. I probably keep saying that wrong. It's a Sicilian. You know, it's a Sicilian we've seen, not necessarily we've seen before, but they play a fair bit of theory. Not too much getting at you. They target the queen side, does black. And we get this interesting tussle in the center where black ends up with this monstrosity. What must have gone wrong for that monstrosity to happen? This position, even if black's up material, it's got to be better for white. How do you end up with this and this and this? Just dreadful. Dreadful pawn structure. Knight to a4. Not the right way, but it's fine. Queen b5, and now b3. c5, and now queen e2, offering a queen trade. We play c4. Knight out to b6. Rook here. We attack the queen once, and we take the pawn. Knight comes this way. You can't take this just yet. So we drop the bishop back. Now you're threatening to take. Rook to c1, just make sure everything's okay. Queen d3, knight out, we trade. And now rook e4, solidify everything. And now we continue to put pressure on those 3 double pawns that you did willingly. And we push our pass pawn. White's advantage swelling as we reach time control. And here we are, we reach time control with knight to b6 and queen b5. Both players have gained their extra time. It's +5 for white. There is a pass pawn. There is still double pawns. This pawn is a bit closer to these, so maybe you could make them something formidable. This is still separated. This bishop has no role in the game. As long as the knight stays safe, it'll be fine. It can go back and defend this pawn. It takes the rook, takes, and now we push. You can take, I take here. Completely crushing position for white. They're up the exchange. They've got a ruined pawn structure to target, and they continue to mow down black. Marc'Andria Morizzi played this game beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. Clean conversion. And now it's mate in 6. After king to h3. There are no more checks. Game is over. And now we move on to the next game. Vasil Ivanchuk versus Erwin Lamy. d4, g5. We get a semi-Slav defense with c6, and we get an early queen c2. We get this line. It's quite quiet. They play a bunch of theory. White willingly takes the damage to the structure in order to get an open g file, so we could potentially see, bishop this way and long castles. Vasil Ivanchuk, a very, very good player, very dynamic player. He gets his bishop kicked. He, trades some stuff in the center, picks up a rook. Just watch this again. Instant replay. We played c5, which is an inaccuracy. White's now better. They take, threatening the fork. There's not really anything you can do. You take again. So I go here. Rook is trapped. But you go here. And the idea is we're going to take and we're going to open up the white king. You can take my rook. I can take back. And now long castles, preventing you from taking. And white's just better. White is just better. We attack on the queen side, but I can play queen c2. Knight can come in, that's fine, king b1. Knight can come all the way in, I can just play bishop d3. And white just needs to consolidate this position and not lose their head. You might say, wait, hang on. Isn't this hanging? No, because bishop defends queen. Anyway, question asked, question answered. We trade queens. We now centralize the rook. We pick up a couple of pawns, trade rooks into this endgame, which is a draw. Somewhere along the line, Vasil Ivanchuk lost his whole advantage. I believe it was somewhere around here. No, this is already the draw. Where was the big mistake? It was... No, this is all winning. Although black does a fantastic job fighting back. Takes, Rook is okay. Rook, here's an inaccuracy and you've kind of lost all your advantage. You should have played bishop h2, and allowing this exchange allows black to get back into the game. And yes, we have this check and this exchange. And now it's difficult. And it's difficult to win this because black has got 2 pass pawns. Even though you have a rook, 2 pass pawns, knight's bothering the king, this is defended, it's really difficult. So, rook to d5, king over. Rook to g5, king over. Now, bishop to rook to g2, bishop to e3. King comes up. King comes up, we target the bishop, we move out the way. It's going to be challenging. And oh dear, Owen Lamy might be winning. They just reached time control, and g4 and Owen Lamy might be winning. He's winning. Bishop takes b7. The first move after time control for Sivanchuk over an hour on the clock. Takes, king down, and he's just lost. The pawns are going to promote. He tries to get a check. He sacrifices the rook. We don't even take the rook back. We push and we promote and we make a queen. He tries everything he can, but the game is just over after queen to e2. Owen Lamy, from the brink of defeat, comes back and wins the game. Final game of the day. Carissa Yip versus Vendant Panesar. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, and the invitation to play the Berlin. Are we going to get an anti-Berlin or the Berlin endgame? We have d3, the anti-Berlin. Now, the Spanish is a very maneuvering game. Very maneuvering. All of these moves have been played before. Bishop gets kicked around. Both bishops get kicked around. The knights move in the center. We get all of this. All of this has been seen before. d4 is played. Takes. Knight comes out. Bishop to e1. Looks super strange. But this has all been seen before. I know they've spent, about an hour or so getting here. Probably if you put this in the database, which I'm going to go check now. Openings database, no games found here. Where did we run out of games? We ran out of games on move. Where was the... here. a6 has been played. Now there's bishop a4 and bishop takes c6. Bishop a4. And bishop g4 is the novelty, according to the engine. We were already in a super rare position, just in terms of the move order. But these types of positions have been all seen before. As Wijk continues to expand, they've played g4, they've played bishop here, locking up the center, kicking the knight back, and then playing a4, getting the knight in, and looking for this imbalance, where we take, put the knight on c4, and you can take this back at any opportune moment. What you've done is you've ruined the black pawn structure. This knight needs to be defended somehow. So we play queen to e2. Now rook f e8. And white is just better. White's better, despite being down a pawn. Carissa Yip is better. We take. Queen comes over. And now rook a3 might be slightly wrong. But rook a6 gives everything back. Now we rotate. Rook e3. And now we're looking to push. Rook d1. h4. f6. There's waving a bull. f4. Everybody's coming forward. King over to f2. Now bishop e7, rook c1, rook f8. Is anyone going to break through? We're locking everything up maybe too much. Is everything getting locked up? We'll break through. g5. There it is. Takes. We don't take again, but I can take again. And I can get the rook in. And I can get the other rook in as well. I just need a space to get everything coordinated just as I need it. Time taking. There it is. I want another pawn. Now the queen coming in. Now the knight kicking the queen back. Now the rook. Now discovered check, but now the rook takes. We lose the bishop, we get the queen. Takes. Queen check. Completely winning for white, but it's complicated. Rook takes f7, the final straw. It's mate in 11. I implore you to go and watch that game back. I implore you. It was just unbelievable. And so now let's look at the standings. Overview. If we go to the official Tata Steel website, let's also change the view. We forgot to do that yesterday. Yes, so 6 decisive victories. Carissa Yip defeating Panesar Vendant, a win for Andy Woodward, a win for Aiden, a win for Faustino Oro, a win for Owen Lamy, and a win for Marc'Andria Morizzi. Draws between Bibisara and Daniel Ufa. So that means the standings after 4 rounds of the Challenger section. We have one clear leader, Aiden Suleiman Manli. Then there's a tie for second place between 3 players, Marc'Andria Morizzi, Andy Woodward, and Faustino Oro. Then a couple of players on 2.5, that being Bibisara and Daniel Yufa and Karasi Yep. 2 players on 2 points, Vasil Ivanchuk and Lumioy. And then everyone else is on 1 point, and Ilian Robers still yet to score. She is having a really, really rough event, and I hope she gets on the board soon with at least a draw. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how the challenges section is shaping up after 4 rounds.